All 7 of us are present and accounted. The invocation this evening will be given by Michelle McCarty. Chief O'Rourke, would you lead us in the pledge after that, please? Is it Michelle? Is that correct?
Most loving and gracious God, we are humbled by your invitation to engage in the work of your kingdom building among us and in this wonderful community. We acknowledge that we live in the greatest nation that has ever existed at the most wonderful time, and yet we know there are challenges to be a community and to be a people who live in union with you and one another. So we would ask that your Holy Spirit be poured upon this community now, this gathered group, that you may work in us and through us in powerful ways. Remind us that there is nothing impossible for you. Give us wisdom, eyes to see, ears to hear, as you hear and see. That we may have the courage to respond in greater, more merciful and more loving ways, to continue to build up your wonderful kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular meeting of January the 7th, 2014.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Mike. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Under item 5, awards, presentations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Gene Robertson with Dean Animal Control, and what I have brought tonight is a little Minkin male mix, roughly about 3 months old. We have mate to it out there. We have quite a few animals that need a good home. So we get adoption here with our Facebook, so we can use a lot more people out to come out and adopt them. Our hours are from 10 to 6 Monday through Friday, and 12 to 3 on Saturday and Sunday.
Don't even think about it.
Good-looking dog.
They're bringing me those labs, Gene. We'll talk.
Thank you. Item 5.2, consider appointments to the Visual Arts Commission.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is your newly formed Visual Arts Commission. It will consist of 7 members. 6 are from the public at large, and the mayor will appoint 1 commission member. I'm very encouraged. This is probably the largest turnout in advisory committees I've seen in some time. There are 10 applicants. Again, you'll vote for 6, and I'm going to call each of the applicants by name and offer you the opportunity for 60 seconds or less of time that you wish to speak to the commission about why, if you're inclined. So first, Eldon Ames. If you wish to speak to the commission, please step up here and at the podium and offer your thoughts, sir.
When I read the article last month, I thought with all of my experience in education, 30 years in public schools, 5 years at Phillips University, and numerous art projects in the community, I thought this is a good way that I can help my community.
Thank you, Mr. Ames. Edna Mae Holden.
Thank you. I'd just like this opportunity to, I kind of badgered most of you about this, and I appreciate so much Whitney Box working on this for so long. I'd like to be a part of it. I think lots of great things are happening in Enid, and I think this can carry forward through the Visual Arts Committee and keep Enid beautiful and all the other things we're doing. So I'd like very much to bring what little expertise I have in this area to this board.
I don't see him, but Mike Clemmy. I think Mike told me that he would not be able to attend tonight. And if I say this wrong, please indulge me. Margaret Moss Hilligoss? Did I say that right? Yes.
I've been involved in the arts in Enid since the 60s, when I was a student at Phillips University. And I exhibited my paintings for the first time in the administration building. Unfortunately now, the walls out there are bare. It saddens me. I've run a gallery at Park Avenue Thrift Store for the emerging artist for 6 years, which we collected the children's art from the public schools and the 4-H and the library. And I'm a quilter. And I appreciate the heritage that Enid has in textile arts, specifically quilts. They have a strong connection to abstract art, and they have a strong connection to our history, our stories, and our perseverance. And I think those are artistic qualities exhibited in what we called folk art when I was in college.
Ronald Taylor Jr. Lindy Funk.
I'm Lindy Funk, and we've lived here for about 13 years now, and we call Enid home, and we'll be home for quite a while. And for the past 6 years of my life, I've been building the self-esteem of young people through the editing and the writing and photography of the eKids magazine, which I've stepped away from. So I was looking for a variety of different things, you know, where would I fit in? And with an art degree, I felt that when I saw this in the paper, I thought, wow, you know, I think this is great. I think people should be commended for having come up with this idea and how to fund it. I think there's other funding out there that should the committee decide to research other funds to make those amounts of money that were given grow. I think there's a variety of art that can be displayed in a variety of different ways. And art makes people feel good. Sometimes we don't know that's what makes us feel good. Maybe just the colors of your room, but it's what makes you feel good, and it can help improve the quality of life. Thank you.
Cheryl Jones. Dolores McClure. Christopher Sneed.
Christopher would like me to speak on his behalf. Is that okay? He can't be here. He just texted
Yes, ma'am. Come on up, Kelly. You get 2 times the podium. Are you speaking again for who, Kelly?
For Christopher Sneed. He has a history in painting and visual arts, visiting museums around the U.S., and is excited to see it come to Enid. He's looking to make people more interested in the arts. Can I personally vouch for him at all? Or I'll just sit down.
Don't go anywhere.
Stay put.
Yeah, you're next, Kelly.
Oh, okay. I've always been an artist, and I just can't wait to see more vibrance in Enid, of course, particularly downtown. That's where my focus is. But having vibrant art and creativity around you is good for tourism. It's good for workforce. People want to be surrounded by creativity, and it can make a difference on where they travel and where they decide to live. So I'd love to be part of it. Thank you.
That's all the applicants, commissioners. Mr. Mayor, there are 10. Again, you will vote for 6, and Sonia Key will collect and tabulate the ballots.
When we turn in the ballots, we'll continue on the agenda until I have time to check the ballots. Please vote for 6.
Count 6 there.
Item 6, hearings. Item 6.1, there are none. Item 7, community development. Item 7.1, there are none. Under item 8, administration. 8.1, consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code, 2003, Title 5, entitled Public Safety, Chapter 7, entitled Animal Control, Section 5-7-5, to exclude from prosecution the taking in of a feral animal solely for the purpose of spaying or neutering and vaccinating and releasing the animal in the location in which it was found. Further, to correct grammatical errors and move from a class system of offenses to specific fines and imprisonment, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, codification. Andrea?
Mayor, Commissioners, this is the ordinance that was requested by the Commission, and it essentially just decriminalizes the act of taking in a feral animal, having it spayed or neutered, getting its shots, and then releasing it back to where it was found. So then anyone who does this, and there are some people in town that do this now, will no longer be subject to a penalty.
I move we approve.
Motion by Tammy, second by Mike. Further discussion?
I'm sorry, yes, there is. We have one applicant. And when I call your name, if you'd step to the microphone, give your name and your physical address. Sally Cook.
I really don't have anything to say.
Very well.
Everything's good. I just have a lot of girls I have an interest in it.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8.2. Consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code, 2003, Title 3, entitled Business and License Regulations, Chapter 2, entitled Alcoholic Beverages, Sections 3-2-9 through 3-2-10, to prohibit furnishing of alcohol to minors and possession or consumption of alcohol by minors within the City of Enid city limits, and to allow the Enid Police Department discretion and control over consumption of alcohol by minors when necessary. Further, to update in accordance with state law, correct grammatical errors, and move from a class system of offenses to specific fines and imprisonment, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification.
I move to approve.
Motion by Ben.
I'll second.
Second by David. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8.3, consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2003, Title 6, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 2, currently entitled Administration and Enforcement, Sections 6-2-6 through 6-2-7, to describe authority of police officers in the traffic setting within the City of Enid city limits. Further, to update in accordance with state law, correct grammatical errors, and move from a class system of offenses to specific fines and imprisonment, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification.
Mayor, Commissioners, this ordinance is primarily written to do two things. One is just to add the language plus cost to the criminal penalty, or to the crime of obedience to persons authorized to direct traffic or a violation of. The second thing is to increase the penalty for eluding a police officer from $500 to $750, and that's the maximum fine, not necessarily the prescribed fine, and then adding the language plus costs.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ben, a second by Rodney. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
votes, do we?
We have a runoff, but we have 4, and then we'll have a runoff of 3 at all tied for 5th, 6th, and 5th and 6th. The 4 with the most votes were Edna Mae Holden, Mike Clemmy, Lindy Funk, and Kelly Tompkins.
So you vote for 2 more
We
out
will,
of
yeah.
3.
We will vote for Eldon Ames, or Cheryl Jones, or Christopher Sneed. They tied.
Vote for 1 or 2.
Voting
Two.
for
Vote for 2. Again, that's Eldon Ames, Cheryl Jones, Christopher Sneed. And my appointment will be Tammy Wilson. It was a close race.
It was a close race, but you won.
Something.
Before we go to 8.4,
Good call.
And during this process, Mr. Mayor, if I could get a clarification from some folks who have signed up, and I believe you may have signed up to speak for the issue of the Visual Arts Commission. I just want to make sure that you haven't signed up for something. Lindy, was that all you were signed up for? Okay, that's what I thought. And Watermelon, you signed up, but you didn't indicate what you were speaking to. I'm assuming it's the 8.4, the Pegasus discussion? Okay. And Ms. Moss has departed, so. No, you don't on here art. I'm assuming it was for the discussion we've just completed. Okay, thank you.
the 2 names to round out the 6 are Eldon Ames and Christopher Sneed. Item 8.4, consider a resolution terminating the contract for public educational and government access services between the City of Enid, Oklahoma and Pegasus Incorporated, and the lease agreement between the City of Enid, the Enid Municipal Authority, and Sudden Link. Andrea?
Mayor and Commissioners, this resolution is brought tonight at Commissioner Van Hooser's request. It would, if approved, it would terminate the lease agreement that the City of Enid and the Enid Municipal Authority has with Suddenlink as to the beneficiary, Pegasus. It would also terminate the funding agreement between the City of Enid and Pegasus. It would withdraw the offer, or not the offer, but withdraw the approval of the City Commission to spend up to $240,000 for relocation expenses. It would allow the City of Enid to temporarily have the Public Relations Department take over the 3 channels without changing any programming, just on a temporary basis before or until another provider can be put in place. It provides for a severance package for the executive director of Pegasus if the executive director is removed as a result of this. This resolution itself does not actually dissolve Pegasus because Pegasus is a separate corporation, but there is a possibility that the executive director may no longer be there, and so this would take care of a severance package for her.
Say that again, please.
I said, this resolution itself does not dissolve Pegasus because Pegasus is a separate corporation. It defunds Pegasus, but in the event that the executive director were to lose her job because of this, this would allow for a severance package from the City of Enid to her. So, it also provides that a 7-member public access television advisory board would be created, and that ordinance would be written and codified at a later date. It directs the city manager to seek and make recommendations to the mayor and board of commissioners regarding lease options in space to continue the current operations of the Pegasus programming. It also directs the city manager to offer employment to the Pegasus current operations and programming directors within the Public Relations Department of the City of Enid. And it directs the city manager to transfer the remaining 2013-2014 budget allocation for Pegasus to the budget of the Public Relations Department to be used solely for the purpose of providing public educational and government access services. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Andrea, one question I've got is that it mentions here in the resolution that there was a discussion about Pegasus during the budget hearings back in May. I did not recollect that there was any kind of vote taken in connection with that discussion.
I'm not aware, I don't think so. There was not a vote, but there was a discussion, yes.
Discussion. So there was no really any action taken on the part of the commission at that time.
The commission voted to go ahead and fund Pegasus at that time?
Yes. Okay.
And at the time that we voted, it might have, I don't remember if it was in May or if it was in June, but I remember around that, because I looked at the minutes. Wasn't there a vote taken wherein we discussed revisiting this in 6 months, which is now, and that was
Yes.
on?
Yes.
Because I wanted a year and it was voted on 6 months.
Yes, and not just Pegasus, but
Right, other
other
things.
programs, yes. Yes.
While we're talking about that, as a result of that discussion, were the Pegasus board chairman or manager given any kind of notice in writing about what the commission wanted to accomplish with that program?
Well, I'm unaware of any writing, but that's because I didn't draft any, and I'm not aware of what any of the other commissioners made.
Since the director was in the audience during that discussion, Commissioner, I thought that was self-evident.
Well,
Not really.
Well, I can tell you that in email from myself to Wendy in March of last year, I lined out what we wanted, and that was in March.
but Tammy, that has
So-
no effect.
I'm
When we're
saying that they were aware of our desires as far as almost a year ago.
Well, let me preface that then. What we need to be concerned with tonight is, we have a lot to be concerned with tonight. Here's one thing I'd like addressed from Andrea and then maybe David. How do we invalidate this contract? It appears that what we are attempting to say is that Pegasus has failed to perform under the terms of their contract. And so for cause, we are voiding the contract. I've seen no evidence whatsoever under the terms of the contract that they have failed to perform. And what any one of us, be it David or Tammy or myself, says via email, walking down the street, doesn't have that kind of legal effect. It's action of the commission. So what have they breached? And how do we rise to the level of a violation of the terms of their contract to invalidate it?
And you're talking about the funding contract, correct? Not the lease agreement?
Well, let's do one at a time, but sure.
Okay, funding contract. It does not define cause. It says that the contract can be terminated for cause. It does not define cause. Therefore, it is up to this commission to determine whether or not cause has taken place. Not necessarily by an action, a direct violation or by an action which directly violates what the commission has asked Pegasus or told Pegasus to do, but in general, is there cause to terminate this contract? Have they performed up to the expectations as outlined in the contract for the city of Enid? If this commission feels like that cause has been met, then that contract can be terminated. Is it subject to suit in district court? Absolutely. Almost anything is. And if a judge later decided that the commission was incorrect and did not have cause, it could reverse that. Not permanently, because the city has no continuing duty to fund Pegasus, but at least short-term, until the end of the budget cycle, the court could reverse.
So we would be deciding tonight, if this resolution was passed, we'd be making the declaration unilaterally that Pegasus has failed to comply with the terms of the agreement without specifying those failures. Is that correct? Because I see nowhere in this resolution what those specific failures are.
The cause, tell us what the cause is.
Well, the commissioners have to determine what cause is. Not me. This is not my thing. I have no opinion on this, but the commissioners have to decide. Has Pegasus lived up to your responsibilities as outlined in the contract?
Then we need to discuss that.
Well, and
Those things do need to be discussed, absolutely. And I would ask that if a motion is made tonight to pass this resolution, that the motion is made with the notation that these are the specific things that the commission as a whole feels like Pegasus has or has not done. That way, if in fact legal action is pursued, then there is a legislative determination by this commission going into the district court that generally a district court will not overturn. Generally, not always, but generally.
Well, so one of the things that I was trying to get at is the fact that we renewed a contract with them after the beginning of this fiscal year, or this fiscal year.
Yes, yes.
And there was no mention in that contract of any lack of compliance or anything that we wanted to do differently than what they had been doing.
There was not.
No benchmarks.
And you know, to me, if we're going to say, well, you know, you've failed to do what we want you to do, we need to tell them what we want them to do.
Exactly.
Well, we did have this discussion, and we told them that we would revisit it in 6 months, which is what we're doing now. So there was a benchmark.
Various people had a discussion.
No, we had this public discussion. It was a very public discussion. And we said that, because I wanted to give them a year, and I got voted down, and it was voted down to 6 months, which is now. And when I was speaking of earlier, I'm not purporting that what I said to them had any violation to do with the contract. I'm just speaking to the fact that there was some notice prior to the last couple of weeks, is all I'm getting at as far as that goes. But we did have a public discussion. It was we set a benchmark to review it again in 6 months.
Well, don't you agree, though, that should have been entered into the contract?
Well, I don't know. I know it's in our minutes that we voted on it. We voted on the fact that we were going to discuss it again in 6 months, and that's what we're doing.
I remember David.
Is that in the minutes?
Yes, it is in the minutes.
I remember David saying that we would ask them to raise half of the revenue from an outside source.
But that wasn't voted on.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
And that's the only thing that I have heard that was a cause that they haven't lived up to.
Several commissioners have mentioned what they believe to be cause. For example, Commissioner Wilson has visited, as far as I know, with Pegasus a few times, told them things that the commission wanted them to do, as discussed in the budget meetings last year, and I believe that she's unsatisfied. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe that she's unsatisfied. Same thing for Commissioner Van Hooser.
Can we hear what those items are, since they're not included in this resolution?
Before we do that, I haven't heard a whole lot of dialogue between the city and Pegasus. Sorry.
I also don't know that, I think that, Mr. Mayor, the suggestion that Pegasus raise half of their funding was made by a commissioner but never voted on by this body as a whole. Pegasus is a public access organization, and I think that the idea that they could raise even half of their operating funds is frankly ludicrous while still acting within the stated goals of a public access.
Well, if you turn
We
it
never
over-
voted on that, although, again, Mr. Van Hooser did express that wish.
That's the cause I see. But if it is turned over to the city of Enid, are they going to be asked to raise half of the revenue from an outside?
We're already
half of their
funding all
revenue from the outside source? The city of Enid.
The city's already funding all of it. We're their sole
I'm
funding
talking about
source.
over and above the $185,000. If we asked them, my question is, if we had asked them to raise half of their revenue from an outside source, if it inures to the city of Enid, are we going to ask the city of Enid to go out and raise half of their revenue? If not, that's the cause they didn't live up to, and then we've got the same problem again.
Mayor, that's a decision to be made by this commission. I can't answer that because no.
Can the city of Enid go outside of the budget and raise revenue from a private source?
Sure, yes.
What if they don't raise the revenue?
The city of Enid?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you're assuming, are you not, Mr. Mayor, that you're applying that standard to a what-if circumstance? If you in fact tell the city of Enid, if this motion is approved tonight, and you add on to that the stipulation that the new entity that manages Pegasus would be required to raise additional funds, if you make that an element of this motion, then yes, the same standard would apply. But that's several horses down the road.
What do we do with the existing Pegasus board?
The Pegasus board would remain intact. The Pegasus is its own corporation. It would decide, its own board would decide what to do with the board.
Shouldn't we let them make that decision?
They would make that decision. This resolution
Granted,
would not fix that.
we control the purse strings. It all comes from the city of Enid, but
Yes.
looks to me like we are going around the Pegasus board. Why would you want to be on the Pegasus board then?
Well, there wouldn't be anything to Pegasus at that point. The way
understand.
this is written, all the assets would be co-opted by the City of Enid Public Relations Department, which totally removes the whole point of a public access organization. I mean, a PEG, the stated goal of a PEG isn't to do PR for the city. That's not what a PEG's there for.
Well, you raise a great point, Commissioner, and if I could address that. There has never been expressed or implied that this would be a permanent subset of the city of Enid. It is a temporary measure to maintain the integrity of the operation and the conduct of the current Pegasus mechanism. A little history here might be in order. This will be my 8th budget cycle, and in every single one of them, this issue is addressed. And we always stop short of saying, speaking to the elephant in the room. And the fact is, Pegasus does not perform in its current operational style. The entity that is Pegasus is not the issue. The fact that it currently does not operate in a manner that is even a modest return on its investment. That issue has been expressed by 4 previous city commissions. This city commission has stepped forward and said we want a decision on that. Commissioner Van Hooser I no doubt will speak to that. But the elephant in the room is the fact that they're not fulfilling their obligation in their own charter.
Well, but Eric, the time to address that is when we do our budget. We made a commitment. The city of Enid made a commitment to fund Pegasus for 1 calendar year. We talked about revisiting it in 6 months.
Which is now.
But that's not the commitment we made on paper.
Yes, we did.
signed
We
a
voted on it.
contract. We signed a contract which stated 1 year. Now, revisiting Pegasus is not the same thing as defunding Pegasus, and making recommendations to Pegasus to improve what they do is an entirely separate thing from defunding it. Also, keep in mind that in the last 6 months, we evicted them and put them in the awkward position of trying to find a workable solution in a temporary home while they did renovations for a permanent home, all of which takes time. This is absolutely the worst time to be pulling the rug out from under them with effectively a few weeks' notice.
They have had longer than a few weeks' notice, because they came to us in March of last year, before you were on the commission, with plans for their renovations. So they knew this was coming a way long time before the last 6 months.
And Tammy,
This
we
is
know how
not
long
new.
construction takes.
I'm just saying, this is not new. This is not something that's been sprung on them in the last couple of weeks. This has been an ongoing deal for years. And the fact that we raised concerns a year ago, this did not happen 2 weeks ago.
But the
This
threat to
happened-
defund did.
No, it didn't. It's been going on every single year. And they'll tell you, we've been here every single year. We've had this discussion every single year. They've had this discussion every time.
And we have signed a contract every
And the
time.
last time we did it, we said, with the exception that in 6 months, we're going to look at this again.
I just don't think the city of Enid breaches agreements. I think it's unethical.
Well, I think that we voted on the fact that we were going to look at it again in 6 months.
It's still a written
That was an
contract.
action that this body took.
It's a written contract.
But
And that
Commissioner,
was a
it's-
vote, a legal vote.
Commissioner
Another
Zell,
question that I've
with
got-
all due respect, if cause is in fact determined, then it's terminable for cause and it's not a breach of the contract. I mean, again, it's up to the commission to decide, but termination for cause is not a breach of the contract.
One question I have for you, Andrea, is that the contract calls for the city to provide studio space for Pegasus, isn't that correct?
A separate contract provides for
Lisa-
studio space.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, you know, what effort did we make to do that? It sounds to me like we kind of turned that over to Pegasus to find their own space.
Commissioner Jansen, I feel like several of you are asking questions that I can't answer. I can give you,
Okay, well, I mean, you
legal
just
answers, but I
happen to
can't-
be the one that's standing.
I can address that.
I
can address
understand
for you.
that, but
I made suggestions. I talked to Eric about suggestions for other places they could go.
I had several meetings with the Pegasus executive director and potential landlords, and I asked them to lead the effort because I didn't want the city to be identified as forcing them into a spot. We didn't as much evict them as we tore the building down they were in.
Right. But we do have the right to force them into a spot, don't we?
We could, but I deferred to Pegasus leadership to define their own future existence, and we set a money value that we would support. You codified that in the commission vote. They determined their new home would be in the nonprofit center, and you gave them $240,000 to accomplish it.
Yep. It would, you know, I was thinking though, of course, I realized that the destruction of the convention or the conference center was something we really didn't decide until not too many months ago. I mean, we knew it eventually it probably would go away, but I think the actual decision that it was going to come down was made not a great long time ago.
But they knew way before that they were going to be moving out of that building, because it was March when they came to us last time. And in March, I said at the time, and yes, we approved that money, but I said at the time that I will be glad to support your cause. I will be glad to support giving you that money. However, these are the things that I want to see happen in order to maintain my support for your entity. And those things have not happened, in my opinion. And according to the board member that's on the Pegasus board, have not happened.
I haven't heard a single person say that they are in favor of the way it's operating right now. They like what's going on. They like everything about it. All I'm hearing is the breach of contract. And if we find that they are not performing to what we think they should perform, I don't know that that is a breach of contract. I think that's cause.
Disliking them and failing to perform are not the same thing.
But their failure to perform does not mean that.
Failure to perform is a higher standard than we're not particularly thrilled with them. I don't want to equate the
How
two.
about we're not particularly thrilled with them because they're failing to perform? That's the bottom line.
I think,
And the bottom line is, it doesn't mean that we dislike them. It means it's a business decision. They're asking us to dump $250,000 into a building that we don't own,
and we committed to.
and we said we would revisit in 6 months.
No, we did
Yes,
not.
we did. We voted on it. It's in the minutes.
But we made the commitment to spend the money.
And said that we would look at it again.
We also have the ability to not.
Similarly, you committed to fund some street repairs that we subsequently moved out into another funding line, Commissioner. So it is a fundamental decision of this council to determine funding decisions. They change all year long. The distinction in this one is that you refer to a contract. The contract was something that we developed here because it didn't exist prior to that. And it was a element of performance that we expected them to achieve. Your point is well taken.
But Eric,
This council did commit to this.
They have been behaving in good faith as if that money was there and they would have funding for operations for 1 year and funding to renovate. They have been acting in good faith along those lines. It takes time to renovate.
There's 400,000 in their account. They haven't been short of money.
And throwing money at a problem does not necessarily mean that it moves faster.
But that's what we've been doing for
They
years.
have been contracting with
We have been
architects.
putting a Band-Aid on a bleeding wound every single
They've
year.
been contracting with architects. They have been working with the general contractor. We all know how long construction takes. This body up here has experienced that time after time.
Nobody's asking or expecting their stuff to be done by now, as far as their building goes. That's not the issue. The issue is not that their building isn't done. The issue is that they have not performed up to what we expected and asked.
And can you be more specific? I still haven't heard what these performance issues are. I understand they haven't raised a lot of money, but what else? There's got to be some other things
Well, the
besides
thing,
that.
I mean, my biggest issue was, and I said, I would be in support of, maintaining this if you would, if Pegasus could become a little bit more proactive in their fundraising efforts, in their community, being out in the community more, educating people more about what they're doing. And, we talked about, they have different ways that they could raise some of their revenue. Right now, they're solely reliant on the city of Enid. That's it. And there are other ways that they could be doing that, and they're not doing that at all. I mean, a comment was made one time about, they live within a certain amount of money, and they don't ever think outside of, like, how can we get more money?
So it's the money.
And to me, I feel like they should be a little bit proactive in that, instead of us just giving them money every year to keep doing what they're doing.
Isn't this kind of the nuclear option to respond to that, Tammy? It's not, here's our suggestions at 6 months. It's, you're gone, we're taking all your stuff and your money.
But it's not a new suggestion is the point. This has been every single year. This is
Kind of a dramatic option. David's been making notes over there, and I'm really curious what, he's been scratching, writing a speech.
One option is we could just not fund it at all.
To me, they are a nonprofit organization, and I think that entity needs to be housed in a nonprofit center, whether, whoever.
At our cost.
Sure. You're talking about $240,000, but you've got to subtract off what it's going to cost to find a building, renovate the building, and move them, and I think it will cost more than $100,000.
Not to mention,
And your budget is not going to change from what David gave us, because you're still going to have salaries. You're just moving one salary here. You're moving it over here. And the expenses, I think, will be very similar to what they are right now.
Even if they are, it's not our building and not someone else's building.
I hear you.
It don't make sense to spend $240,000 in someone else's building that you might not be there next year.
What I'm saying is that $240,000 is the max that we're going to give them, but we're going to have to spend another $140,000, $100,000 to begin with to move them.
I don't think so.
We say up to $240,000.
Well, you say no,
That's it.
but,
That's
You
all.
know they're gonna spend $240,000.
pardon me,
But if we say you have up to $240,000, they're gonna spend every bit of $240,000.
David's example was it'll cost us about $100,000 to find a home that we own or lease.
Right. but you
Mr. Mayor,
can't
I can give you an option that'll cost you nothing. In the Enid Event Center, we have a space there that was considered and rejected by the Pegasus Executive Director. We can house them today for free.
It's the first time I've heard that.
Well, you asked the question, that's why I answered.
That's what I wanted to hear. There's not enough dialogue between the city of Enid and Pegasus.
And isn't that a Pegasus Board of Directors decision, not the city's? We fund them, but Pegasus Board of Directors manages their operations. That's how the organizations are set up.
But the money's still coming out
Sure,
here.
absolutely.
We
So
should
then
have a
we can
little say
say-
in what's going on.
We can say, okay, we're going to continue giving you this money, but you have to live here. Or we can say, you can be completely autonomous and do whatever you want, but we're not giving you any more money. That's the option
I've got
in
one
my
other
head.
thing to say. We, and I don't know whether the newspaper's right or not, but Bartlesville, what does Bartlesville, Stillwater, and Norman know that we don't know in Enid, Oklahoma? They have shut theirs down in one of the instances and gone to nothing but the city council and the city council study session big on their Pegasus, on their PEG.
And I think we're trying to avoid that. We don't want to shut them down.
That's the biggest
I mean-
misconception.
That didn't answer my question. What do they know that we don't know?
They know it's a money pit.
Mr. Mayor, I obviously have several things to say, and I've had some prepared comments that I've practiced that takes about 8.5 minutes. So I've been real quiet so I can save all my time.
You've been great.
All my time up to front. What I would like to suggest is that, that we hear from the people who have signed up, and then before we finish the discussion, obviously I'm going to make a motion that we accept this resolution. So I'll make that motion now, and then I'd like to reserve my comments for the end.
At point of order, we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have to have a second before we move on.
I second.
Second by Rodney.
May I say thank you, Andrea. You took a lot of the lightning bolts that should have been directed at me, and I appreciate that. This was not your idea. I put you on this, and thank you.
I appreciate what David did in doing the research and looking into it, and I appointed him to the Pegasus Board. No one else up here made that appointment. David, thank you for looking into it. Eric?
Let me remind you, as you step to the podium, please give a physical address. That is for the record, and there's a reason why we seek that. And some of you have signed up for items that I presume are item 8.4. So if I ask you to clarify, that's simply that reason. Jerry Kunkel.
I want to defer my time to Mr. Maxwell.
Dennis Stone.
Pegasus 8.4.
Okay, this is your opportunity to speak to that. Step to the mic, give us your address and phone number.
Dennis Stone, 701 West Oak, 540-4253. I know. Okay. I pay $4.81 per month in a franchise fee to Southern Link Communications, which is what funds Pegasus. Okay. Southern Link will not take that franchise fee off my bill if you all assume control of Pegasus. I was on the phone with them today on that. Find out definitely the situation. Okay. I received 3 services from Southern Link. So if you, and I watch Pegasus. If this commission officially initiates its hostile takeover of Pegasus to use as a tool for the City of Enid propaganda machine, I will be forced to support the City of Enid propaganda office or change services at a cost to me. So I'd like to know if what the city's going to do for people that do not support the propaganda of the City of Enid on this Pegasus ordeal. What are they going to do for the people that have changed services at the cost of the citizen?
Thank you.
Watermelon Campbell. And Watermelon, I need your address as well.
First of all, I think everybody pretty much knows me. I'm the executive director of the Railroad Museum of Oklahoma, and I've been 26 years putting it together.
Watermelon, can I get your address, please?
Railroad Museum.
Can I get your home address, please?
2502 Indian Drive, Enid, Oklahoma. And I have people come to the museum every day, and I hear them talk, and they talk to me. And I've not heard anybody that goes along with you folks' program of taking over Pegasus. Pegasus, most people in the city of Enid that watches Pegasus likes what they see, like what they're doing, likes what's going on with them. And they don't want the city of Enid to take over Pegasus. Now, that's what I hear from the people. If necessary, I can get up a petition, get you 3,000 or 4,000 signatures if that's what you want. But I just believe that Pegasus is doing a good job. I listen at them all the time. I listen at the city commission on Pegasus all the time. And I like what they're doing. And I hear discussion of that every day, and the people I talk to in the city of Enid. I've not heard one person that likes what the city's doing, taking over Pegasus. That's really what I have to say here. And I asked a question today at the meeting that we had, and it was discussed that they were going to have a study session that would last about 3 months, all about the situation. And the comment was made that they wanted to appoint some people that were executives or prominent people or something to form a committee and examine this situation. And I asked the question, who are these prominent people? And I didn't get no answer. Who's going to do the appointment of the committee that's going to study the situation? I didn't get any answer to that. It's kind of stopped right there. But I am a prominent person in Enid. In fact, the benefit says so on the plaque. Whenever I was given the privilege of being the #1 person of the city of Enid, and they made a plaque to that effect. And the next year, they said the same thing. And
You're kind of we understand that you're getting off the subject.
What I'm saying is that if you want somebody, we want somebody on both sides of the situation. If somebody's going to be appointed to do this, so they can do it all fair and not just one-sided. And I think the people in Enid that reads what's coming out in the paper, making decisions and so forth, in this. And of course, the church comes into the situation. But I understand that Pegasus operates under a 501c3 program. So does the Railroad Museum of Oklahoma. And I come across problems with that every day, and I can tell you all about 501c3. But I just wanted to emphasize what I hear, what I see, and what's going on amongst the people. And I think the people in Enid should be the deciding on whether the city is going to take over Pegasus and drop all the employees. I think they've done a great job, and I just wanted to emphasize that.
Thank you very much.
William B. Maxwell.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'll make the same caveat that I...
Need your address.
I'm sorry, William B. Maxwell, 205 West Maple, Suite 102, 73701.
Thank you.
Phone number 233-9444. It's also the fax line.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. As I've already indicated in my letter to the city, I don't speak for the board. I am a board member. I agree with what's been said so far that the board, the commission, speaks for itself. Council members, mayor, city clerk, city attorney don't speak for the city of Enid. Open meeting, proper agenda, majority vote, that's what when the city of Enid speaks. So although these are my comments, I'll try to keep them as close as I can to the subject and to what I think the board would wish. A lot of misinformation in regard to this matter. The city of Enid destroyed the building in which Pegasus is housed without a plan on relocating it. As I understand it, the city of Enid currently plans to destroy some portion of the management It's not the management, it's the board. Some portion of the employment, seems to be some misunderstanding about that. The resolution clearly makes it, paragraph 6, that the city manager would be directed to offer employment to Pegasus current operations and programming directors. That's 2 out of 3. Hence, the city manager is given option as a part of the resolution that's on the floor that the executive director would be fired. So to say that the executive director isn't the focus of this entire episode is ludicrous. Now, otherwise, the board of Pegasus does not manage Pegasus. The board of Pegasus is not paid. As I understand it, ladies and gentlemen, you're not paid either. Now, if this board offered an edict in its budget session this year that each one of you is to go out and raise $90,000, I don't think you could do it. Now, maybe you're better at fundraising than, no, I'm sure you would be better at fundraising than I. But the issue is that what Pegasus is about, to raise funds, or are we to provide public education, government access television? Now, we can agree on several things. Pegasus has got to get better. We can agree, I think, that Pegasus alone cannot make it better. Can you make it better? I don't think any one of you wants to take on that task. Each of you has your own specialties, your own occupation. I do. I don't have the expertise to do that. So we need someone, I say we in the collective sense of your body and the body that I'm speaking about at least, and again, not for, that we need some expertise. Experts have come forward and are offering to do that. Now the question is, are you going to appoint those, or is Pegasus? Are you going to offer new management to Pegasus with no continuity with the old management? The experts that I've talked to are willing to offer their services to come in and provide assistance, want the current executive director to stay on for a period of time so that management can still manage the day-to-day affairs while new leadership directions are established. This is simple, basic business. Now, we've got to have place. If we're going to have anybody to loan us money, give us money, they're going to have to think that we have a home. We're homeless right now. Now, do you want to give some money to a homeless person? I don't think you do. You're stumbling over $240,000, and I think, Commissioner Stuber, I've got to disagree with you slightly. We're not going to spend $240,000 if we go into the nonprofit center. We're going to spend $260,000. We've cut and we've honed and we've robbed and stolen and everything we can to get the money down. We, quite frankly, and I believe I speak for the board in this particular context, do not want to be in the nonprofit center. If we could be in the event center, I've never heard of that. The board members who are here tonight have never heard of that. If Dr. Van Hooser has a list, or anybody has a list on where we could be other than that, please submit it to us. The failure of communication between these two bodies is rampant. The communication that has been misinformation is worse than the failure to communicate, and those are two different things. But what I'm suggesting is that if you're going to take an organization down, and the words came from your city attorney's mouth that this is a takeover, then do you want to destroy the continuity? If you want to destroy the continuity of the organization because you don't believe in the board, you don't believe in the employees, fine, do that. You'll have no continuity and no experience to offer. But it would seem your history is to destroy a building and then decide what you're going to do with the contents, the occupants, Pegasus. Now you want to destroy an organization, Pegasus. You're going to keep the name. You can have the name. Wouldn't it have been simpler to have gone to the Pegasus board in a resolution from this body to say, y'all ain't doing your job, resign. Mr. Mayor, if you want my resignation tonight and you want to pack the board, Pegasus, and take off with the same management and the same bylaws, rules, organization, everything we've got, you can have my organization, my resignation. We are not wed to the board. We're not trying to hang on. Our salary is not going to be increased if we get to stay. But I think that we have some continuity. There is some continuity within the employees by implicit within the resolution. Now, Commissioner Tim mentioned that we have $400,000. Yes, and we have delayed switching over to HD. The promise for that has been made over and over again, and that's very true. And while that's been delayed, the price of HD equipment has dropped immensely. So are we bad stewards of the money that has been given to us, or are we good stewards? We haven't spent that money. So if it were for cause that we were frittering about funds that the city gave us, hang us. Hang us all by the same tree. We have not been bad stewards. If you want us to go out and raise funds, then we need to have a fundraiser person. If you want us to manage Pegasus and make it better, let us find some experts to advise us, give you the report so there's no misinformation about it whatsoever. And if you don't like the report, or we don't like the report, one of us is going to have the opportunity to veto that report and say, no, we're not going in that direction. And about that time, you're going to be at budget. And you can cut us off. And you'll pick up $400,000. And you'll save $240,000. And you'll save the $185,000 the next year. I don't think this is about money. I think this is about, do you want to have a public education governmental access station in Enid? Does it need to be better? Don't we all agree that it needs to be better? Who's going to tell us how to make it better? Are you going to? It's not going to be me. I want to turn to some experts. Who's going to appoint the experts? Now, I think the timing is bad. I asked Dr. Van Hooser today why the timing is so essential now. I don't understand. I hope that you do. Because at this point in time, you're going to control what happens to this organization as of February 1. You're not going to control the board because the board's still going to be out there as some sort of amorphous nothing. And you can do that. If that's the way you feel, fine. But I really do agree with Mr. Ezell. If we've done a bad job, I'd like you to tell us how we have done a bad job. Who among us has done a bad job? Was it a prior board president? Is it a current board president? Who is it that you are unhappy with? I think that's only common decency. And so far, I haven't heard that. So my suggestion to the board, to the commission, is that you table this, give us 90 days to come up with an expert report, to submit that to you, that you allow us to select the members of that expert panel. You have veto power over any member we select on that panel. They will provide us that report, meaning us to you and to Pegasus board within 90 days. And if we can't agree then on the future of Pegasus, we're going to be in budget. You're going to cut the funding. You're going to make some money. You're going to have a tax return to file. You're going to have a whole bunch of people whose tax returns you're going to have to change. But if that's what you want to do, you have the power to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Maxwell.
Thanks. We cannot respond.
Even during, if it's on the agenda?
We cannot respond to it. It's not a hearing.
I'd be happy to respond to any question if there's.
Can we respond, Andrew?
I thought it was an agenda item.
It's an agenda item.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Under your suggestion, the home for the 90 days during this period for Pegasus, and the money that was designated for renovations to the nonprofit center, what is to be done for those, for the home and the monies designated?
I can speak for the board here because the board at its emergency meeting last week voted to, and there were various words discussed to describe this. I did not get my way. The word was used to table all negotiations with Henson Construction, the nonprofit center. Hence, we are not negotiating or discussing any use of or occupancy of the nonprofit center basement area, there will be no further discussion about that expenditure at all until the Pegasus Board chooses to pick it back up. It is tabled.
So, Mr. Maxwell, the proposal I'm hearing is that this will be put on hold. All the money that's sitting out there would be put on hold while interested parties of our community with some vested interest in Pegasus and experience in nonprofit organization comes up with a long-term proposal that doesn't involve the city rolling Pegasus in, or rolling Pegasus into the city. So all this would, there would be time to come up with a more fully thought-out plan. Is that your proposal?
May I elaborate on that? I think that your term in terms of finding those experts is exactly where we need to start. To think we have found them already would be ludicrous. There are people who are out there who have such expertise as we need and you need who have not come forward. And if this is not a clarion call to them, please make it so. That we find and beat the bushes to find people who want to have this type of service continually be provided to the community in a reasonable manner, in a business-like manner even. But I would expand then on the part that this may be, the advisory panel's report may be that Pegasus no longer should be a 503C. That it should be operated by the city of Enid. There are Pegasus-type organizations within the state of Oklahoma which are operated by municipalities.
Perry being one great example, I think.
Closest, yes.
Thank you.
So we're to believe that no one has come forward and said, I want to be part of this advisory committee? No one has come to you guys and said that to you?
Well, I don't think that's what he suggested.
I'm asking if that's accurate or not.
That's inaccurate.
So you don't know who is going to be part of the committee?
I have volunteers so far, but what I'm suggesting that as part of the resolution here would be that the city be able to veto someone that they do not want on the body, but that we be the one proposing the members of the body, and the city should make some determination of how many.
Is 90 days an adequate amount of time?
It is, Mr. Mayor, it is. We've asked that very question today in open meeting in the Pegasus Board.
We've delayed a lot of things in the city more than 90 days, so that to me is not it. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
David?
Well, we have two more minutes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Allison Davis and Ms. Davis, if you please give us your address. I have your phone number. If you just give us your address.
Keep me honest.
1302 Veneta in Enid. Hi. It's nice to be here. Thank you guys for your service. I know it's thankless sometimes. I am one of the volunteers that has come forward to help if it's wanted. I was the executive director of Pegasus from 1995 to 1998, and I have a background in television production before that. And I just wanted to say a couple of things as you make your decisions. I think the first thing is to remember why and how this community access station was formed back in the 1980s. It was formed as a service to its citizens, and it is a different animal than most nonprofits. It was formed as a quasi-nonprofit, a quasi-city department. So it's unlike a normal nonprofit out there. It's quasi-city because it is a service that the city decided to provide for its citizens, to give the ability to all the citizens to have access, hence the name, to a medium to communicate with the other citizens, whether that is to listen and watch what's going on in their city or to speak out and put a program on that they might want to put together to watch a city council, Board of Ed, a parade downtown, a church service, a high school football game, whatever. But it's a city that it is a service that the city provides. It's a quasi-nonprofit, so there can be that separation between the cities and the local government for free speech, First Amendment. That is what it's all about, and that's how they were formed, so that it's not a government-controlled TV station. Now, you can have one of those. You can just you know, and a lot of the other cities in Oklahoma have done that. And you can certainly do that, but you would probably just have local government programming on it, and that'll be a decision that you can make. If you do decide to have this volunteer group do an assessment of what, you know, we think from an industry professional's point of view of what the potential for Pegasus could be, you know, there are several of us that are happy to do that. I think for now, you might want to leave it as the nonprofit, the 501c3, because maybe in the end, you would decide to keep it that way. So why dissolve it and then recreate it again? You know, and it's true. We might come back and say, you know, maybe it's not a good idea, but we need to look at it, and we need to look at all the possibilities with technology the way it is. You know, 15 years ago, it was a lot different. 5 years ago, it was a lot different than it is today. You've got robotic cameras, you've got cell phones and laptop control rooms and all kinds of things. And so we want to look at that and, you know, how could we tap into the potential that this resource is and make it the best that it can be? I mean, ideally, that is our goal, is to cast some kind of vision for that over the next few months. So I just wanted to say those things, and thank you for your time.
Before you go, just one quick question. So it's not just to look at the options of how Pegasus should exist mechanically as a separate entity or a wing of the city of Enid, or where it should be, but also what technology should be invested in, and
I think so.
And what efficiencies there might be out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any others?
Yeah, yes, sir, we have a few more. Carol Still. And I have your data here, Mr. Still, if you do repeat it for the record.
Reverend Carol Still. My address is 1102 Hillcrest Drive here in Enid. And I wish to speak in support of Pegasus, both as a resident of the city of Enid and also as a representative of an organization that utilizes its services. I think that Pegasus provides us with an excellent service. And also, I would like to suggest, as I've heard several comments here, it seems like most of this deals with cost and benefit analysis. And as, if you will, the manager of a nonprofit organization, I can tell you that you do not always and solely look at benefits as opposed to cost in trying to assess whether that organization is doing its job. There are many other things go into determining whether a church or another nonprofit is successful, and sometimes those are a little hard to figure out. They're not always black and white. Also, I would like to address something that I heard a few moments ago, and that is that Pegasus has not attempted to seek any outside funding. I know for a fact that 2 years ago, Pegasus approached local congregations here in Enid and asked them to contribute towards the purchase of new HD equipment. Our congregation did that, and we have given money to Pegasus for that purpose, and I assume that part of that money makes up the $400,000 that was mentioned earlier. And so one of the questions I have is, if the city takes over Pegasus, and I don't mean that in a hostile way, what about those nonprofit organizations that have contributed money to another nonprofit organization that, you know, I'm concerned about the legality of that myself, and not being, I'm a preacher, I'm not an attorney, so I can't really address that, but it's certainly a question that I have. You know, knowing recently actually producing our programming for Pegasus, we're not the most professional, admittedly, but I think there is a benefit that we provide not only to our church members. Many of our folks who are older and can no longer attend our worship services, they benefit by being able to watch our services on Pegasus or to watch services offered by other churches, as well as the other programming that Pegasus provides. So I think there's a much more complex issue here than just simply dollars and cents and whether Pegasus is making the best use of that money. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Questions? Thank you. We have one more.
I want to clarify that one issue. It's not in my notes for later, so I want to straighten that out because that's, again, one of the misconceptions, the issue about what's going to happen with that money. This resolution, as proposed, will only bring the money from Pegasus back that has been given to it by the city of Enid. The funds which were contributed from nonprofit to nonprofit for capital fund expenditures such as new equipment will remain with the Pegasus Incorporated nonprofit entity. So the city is not taking money that came from very generous donors like yourself. That money will retain, and that will be up to the board to decide what they want to do with that, give it back, how they want to handle it. So that's a piece of misinformation I want to clarify.
And Diane, I always have trouble with your last name, so indulge me. Diane Levesque?
Diane Levesque.
You're right, it does. If I just looked at it, I would see that.
Levesque.
Levesque.
Yes. Levesque.
Okay, and your phone number?
Don't have one.
All righty. God bless you then.
All right. My address. My address, 1324 West Oak. I believe I have a neighbor here. And I met some of you earlier this afternoon, and I humbly come before you and to say that I am not above making a correction when my facts are wrong, and I do make an effort to keep my facts straight. And in the interest of full disclosure, I am a stringer for MSNBC Newsvine. That means I report and I don't get paid for it, basically. Also, I was a poll place reporter in 2008 for Huffington Post. Now, what hasn't been covered so far here is where all of this falls under federal jurisdiction, and just the fact of being a 501c3 makes it subject to federal regulation, but being part of a cable media, it falls under the Federal Communications Commission regulations. And I've also discovered in my investigative reporting that this isn't the only organization that goes by the Pegasus acronym. There are others, and it's basically organized, or the intent is to organize like C-SPAN, which is entirely funded by the Cable Corporation. Now, as I recall, the first time you all started cutting funding for Pegasus was when you thought you wanted to get Suddenlink to come in instead of Cox Cable, and you didn't think it was a good idea to hold the cable company responsible for something that cable companies elsewhere in the nation are in fact responsible for. And this is even on the federal level, so I'm pointing that out. Another thing too is that you expect performance without paying enough for it. Now, if you have a problem with somebody absconding with funds that you are giving Pegasus, that's something you should prove in court, and by all means prosecute that person. But if someone is not illegally doing that, they are in fact conforming to the budget that they have, and you're basically demanding a dollar song and putting only a nickel in. If you want a dollar song, you put a dollar in, and that's my point right there. But should the city actually be doing this? According to what I've seen from the federal perspective, no. This is the cable company's responsibility, and all of you have been too cowardly to approach Suddenlink with this, and they are apparently not hurting because they are in fact charging their customers for Pegasus subsidies. It's not like it's coming out of their pocket. It's coming out of the pocket of the people who put all of you in office. Okay? Now, those are the facts that I've found. I've also found that well, part of my problem earlier today was the fact that I read the Enid News and Eagle and I misread it or something. But another part of what I read in today's Eagle was somebody got really riled up there about some letter that Wendy Quarles had sent out to churches. Now, again, from the federal regulatory perspective, Wendy Quarles is right, and not only when she wrote that letter showing that if the city takes it over, there is a prohibition about running anything having to do with churches or religion or forwarding a particular theology, okay? You would not be able to do that. All these good churches who have enjoyed Wendy's hospitality over these years have done so because she's Wendy and because the city, all the city did was give money. They are independent. They are intended to be independent, and you would not have church access were this not the case. And if Wendy Quarles was so incompetent, why did she keep Pegasus in perfect compliance with federal regulation all these years? And I submit to you that her letter was also an effort to do that. Wendy Quarles is fully competent and rises to level of federal competency in knowledge and of federal regulations. And whoever on this commission had a problem with that letter does not rise to the competence required by federal regulation to run such an organization. Okay? And there's something else that I found really peculiar in looking into this. After the meeting this afternoon, I had a look at the agenda, and I saw on the agenda the text of the resolution that had a place for Mr. Shuey to sign, and it was stated that he would sign it on this day in January 21, 2014. And from the statement of Mr. Van Hooser right here, prior to anybody making a comment, he did say that he was going to go ahead and approve that. And I find that curious that this is such a blatant disregard of a proper public hearing and a proper withholding of judgment until all people were heard. Now, the problem with the date on that resolution is, I'm bad with Latin, but the term ex post facto comes to mind, and I confess I'm not a lawyer, and that's why I can promise you to get my facts straight. I'm going to ask the Oklahoma State's attorney about how that's supposed to be, if that's kosher, or just to get a reaction and report on that. Any questions?
Thank you.
That's all the speakers we have, Mr. Mayor.
David?
All right, grab your shorts, because part of what I'm going to go through here is going to be a beating. But I need to do this to make a point. I need to address some of the issues that have been brought up both by the community and also by Mr. Maxwell, and some issues that were raised at the Pegasus board meeting today, which I did attend. Specifically, that there's been no continuity, that this is a brand new issue. Suddenly we have created this idea that we're not happy with Pegasus, and address the issue of them needing more time, and address the issues of no warnings. And then I have been making some notes about some specific failures that caught me off guard a little bit, Commissioner Zell, but I have some here, having studied this, and give us a starting point there. So I've looked at, thanks to the staff for providing it for me, but I've looked at the last 10 years of minutes from this commission, and I want to give you some perspective. And these are obviously random comments that are through here, so that's why I say that just bear with me. In July of 2003, item 14 dealt with Pegasus funding. Wendy said that the ability to make money on memberships was hard to do. Grants were very limited. Bill Gamble, city manager at the time, said, well, how about creating a partnership with a large company? August of 2003, the contract award for the equipment was brought up. The background for that said there's a need to replace outdated, failing, and non-functional equipment for Pegasus. In the minutes of the meeting, the motion was made by Commissioner Rose to table that item, 7-0. It was kicked down the road. Comments in that discussion from Bill Gamble said, how much Pegasus does this community really need? This is in 2003. Wendy Quarles said that a 50% cut in funding is scary. We'll have to cut hours, reduce services. It's very difficult to sell sponsorships. The original purpose of the franchise fee was public access. Hiram Champlin, who was at the meeting, said that it was never intended for the city to fund Pegasus 100%. Carol Lehman, the attorney at the time, said franchise funds can be used for anything. Those are for leasing the right-of-way, and there's no requirement to fund Pegasus with those monies. September of '03, contract from Pegasus, again discussed. Background, several meetings were held with Pegasus reps to negotiate a compromise on their funding. This resulted in a reduction of 5% per year until 60% of the franchise fee was to be reached. At a special meeting that same year in 2004, Wendy Quarles said she's planning to increase membership by 100% and trying to make Pegasus self-sufficient. Bill Gamble again said Pegasus's proposal for funding seems excessive based on their history. June of 2005 study session discussed the Pegasus contract for the year 2005 to 6. Wendy Quarles asked that the franchise fee be frozen at 70%. She stated the labor union was going to start using Pegasus. She agreed they needed to do more fundraising. She stated the major purpose was not entertainment. City Manager Jerry Irwin at the time asked the commission to consider continuing to reduce the fee 5% annually. June of 2006, again, a discussion was held on item 9.1, contract for Pegasus. Concerns were voiced regarding the amount of funding for Pegasus for the year 2006 to 7. The motion was made by Commissioner Hodgins, seconded by Commissioner Kaufman to table the item once again. The discussion that year, Commissioner Rudy. Last year, they were asked to seek more donations and did not. Wendy Quarles, we're trying to raise money to be more accountable in the future. Commissioner Hodgman, tabled, approved. July of '06, discussed the Pegasus contract. Commissioner Ging, in the past we paid on a percentage. Now we have an offer from Pegasus to pay them a lump sum per year of $295,000. Commissioner Rose agreed. It makes sense to set a budget and ask Pegasus to live within that budget. May of 2007, again, budget discussion, special session. Commissioner Rudy said Pegasus, increase the amount of cuts. It doesn't generate any benefit. Commissioner Dillon, cut completely out. Commissioner Rudy, there's been no grant activity for these funds. The city should not be the sole provider for Pegasus. Commissioner Rudy stated that the $100,000 cut for Pegasus should remain. June of 2007, Commissioner Benson, now on the scene, proposed a budget cut which included $100,000 less for Pegasus. And again, the discussion was held regarding funding cuts for Pegasus. In that same meeting, Wendy said, we're attempting to raise revenue. We're trying to go to HD services, but we're going to need more money. We just had our first class with NOC. Our outreach is now involving schools. Pegasus is now an agency of service created by and for the city as its #1 priority. Eric Benson reported at that meeting that over the last 10 years, up through 2007, Pegasus had received $3.046 million in support from the city of Enid, and the commission was unhappy. May of 2008, Commissioner Rudy, 2009, Pegasus is going to have to change equipment. Mr. Benson will look at their reserve fund as a source. June of 2008, Wendy said, well, we're looking at more fundraising and more outreach. June of 2009, Wendy, by 2012, we will complete the HD upgrade, but we're going to need more money. September of '09, contract with Pegasus. The city of Enid continued to pay $185,000 annually. May of 2010, study session. Wendy said, well, we're going to remain in standard definition format. We're still going to move towards HD equipment. We're going to eliminate Studio B. We're going to continue our fundraising efforts. We're going to continue to try to sell sponsorships. We're going to do video for pay. We're going to try to increase our sales. And we're going to provide a video service to the Regional Development Alliance. May of 2010, at a special meeting, discussion was held regarding the proposed program funding cuts for Pegasus of $185,000. Commissioner Rose expressed concerns with respect to Pegasus's declining fund balances over the year. Wendy said, we are looking at cutting a staff person since 60% of our budget is personnel. Mayor Kreiner stated that they needed to tighten up and trim expenses. Wendy said, we plan to get more sponsors, and we've discontinued several programs. Commissioner Rose, Pegasus' current trend cannot survive. Commissioner Ging, Pegasus needs to change its business as the commission changes. Wendy said, well, let's consider it a quality of life issue. Commissioner Rose questioned, well, what won't you be able to do if we fund you at $185,000? Wendy said, we'll have to cut back on staff. Commissioner Ging said, well, maybe sacrifice is the way to go. The people who benefit from the service should pay for it. May of 2011, special meeting, Gerald Gilbert, significant changes in the general budget for local programming were discussed. Hearing of 2011, Wendy said, we're planning again for a complete HD upgrade. May of 2013, Commissioner Van Hooser questions the need for Pegasus, stating it should be self-sustaining or be cut. In June 23rd meeting, motion was made by Commissioner Ezell to continue funding Pegasus operational costs at $185,000, to fund relocation costs in the amount of $240,000, and to eliminate funding for high definition and digital equipment upgrades in the amount of $67,000, which passed. I'm aware that was a long review, but here's the point. The issue of what to do with Pegasus has been plaguing this commission for at least 10 years. The commissioners have slowly been cutting funding from Pegasus somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 down to its current level of $185,000. And this has been done, in my opinion, due to a clear lack of performance and lack of satisfaction with the product that they've been delivering. Pegasus has been talking about more fundraising, more sponsors, better equipment, HD upgrades for years. And where are we today? Standard broadcast. Item 8.4 on the agenda specifically. My proposal will not be the end of public access television, but a new beginning. There's nothing in this proposal that shuts off the 3 TV channels or limits public access to showing the programs that you want to see. Church programs, exercise programs, the community bulletin board, all of that will continue until this commission, your elected officials, decide otherwise. What my proposal does is stops the bleeding of taxpayer dollars. It puts a stop to the $240,000 expenditure for an unneeded studio, as recommended by the same professionals that I have talked to, who have volunteered their time to help us with this. It gets rid of the completely ineffective current Pegasus structure, which for 10 years has not delivered on its promises to this public. Temporarily, it puts the program under the City of Enid's Public Relations Department. But within 3 to 4 months, I fully plan to be back here at this commission in conjunction with a Citizens Advisory Board of professionals proposing a whole new plan. There have been lots of good ideas put out, both by the commission as well as the public, such as contracting the entire service out to a private entity. We don't have to buy equipment, we don't have to buy a studio, we let the private sector do it, and we ask them to do exactly what we want them to do. There are many, many options that we can deal with. So in conclusion, tonight, let's finally be the commission that takes this issue of Pegasus and deals with it, so we can move on to other issues, to more funding issues, and things that are important to our community's future. Now let me address specifically the issue of failures. Number one failure, they've not kept up with current media trends. The website is completely behind. If any of you have looked at that lately, the current programming on Pegasus is for the December 2nd to December 9th programming. Number two, no new ideas for programming have been submitted to this commission, proposed to the public, listed anywhere. We have the same channels, the same programs that have been there for months. You pull the programming, what's on Pegasus, and you can get a very good idea of what things they're showing. Additionally, no new funds have been created. We've been hearing about fundraising for all this time. There's about $400,000 in that, multiple accounts, and that's what it's been. Next, we still are in SD format. We have been promised for years that we're going to upgrade to high definition, and we're still in standard definition. Additionally, they've failure to promote and achieve new members. Evidence of this, the November board meeting, the total number of new members for 2013 has been 11. And finally, among others, the programming response to this city's users, the city itself, has been unsatisfactory from what I understand. And Eric, I'd like you to address that particular issue if you would. We have not been getting the service out of Pegasus that even the city desires, and it's the major funder and the major responsibility of the city per contract.
I'll be happy to, Commissioner. The first 5 tenets of the charter that serves the community vis-a-vis the responsibilities of Pegasus directly relate to their service and response to the city of Enid. Now, short of the transmissions that you see here, internally we have in the past 12 months created 59 different video broadcasts. And I spend far too much time placating my staff who come to me and say, why won't Pegasus cooperate? Why won't they respond? And why won't they give us the priority over the garden club or name your club? I have been here for 7 years, and just as you've stated, this has long been an irritant, and it keeps getting kicked down the road. And frankly, I've given up on it in the last 3 years, and I placed it in the category of I can't fix it and no one will help. I applaud this commission's willingness to address what is a giant elephant in the room. Pegasus, in its current operation, does not serve its financial master. Its response is completely unsatisfactory. It is not timely. and I am completely dissatisfied with it. Now, I suppose I should have been the evil person that addressed the board and threw stones at them. But as I said, I just got tired of beating my head against that wall. We can do much better. You deserve much better, and this council is willing to spend the money to provide that service.
Well, Eric, don't you think it's a little bit hypocritical to limit their funding, giving them 2 staff positions, demand this huge amount from them, 59 productions, you've said? That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time and effort.
I think, well, don't misunderstand me, Commissioner. My staff did that.
Not them.
Not Pegasus. My staff produced those.
My understanding is that your staff is monopolizing virtually all of the production manager's time at Pegasus as it is, much less them trying to do anything else.
We're the only people they have a contract
I refer to their charter. That is their primary responsibility.
And it sounds like they are fulfilling that primary responsibility within the bounds of the limited staff.
No, you
funding
are
that we give
absolutely
them.
wrong about that, Commissioner. They're not responding. If were it not for my public relations director spending every day trying to manage this issue, it would not happen. And I have expressed my dissatisfaction with Wendy, and I have told her more than once that I want to have the priority that our contract has directed. It is up to you now. If you want to continue to kick this can down the road, well, let me finish, Commissioner, and then I'll shut up. If you want to continue to kick this can down the road, you're not going to get any response from me. I'm used to it. This staff is sick to death of this issue. There's so much that could be done if we simply decided we could change horses.
But Eric,
if you want to keep it that way, vote that way tonight.
You just equated City of Enid public relations with government access. You're right. The wording is that the primary goal shall be government access, but is that the same as getting our sit down with Tammy and talk about all the wonderful stuff Enid's doing? I mean, government access is this. It's filming us tonight. That's what government access is. And you're right, that is Pegasus's top goal. But their top goal, but filming the city commission meetings is not the same thing as facilitating Steve Kimes' review of our new dump trucks. I mean, that's great, and I love that we have this active public relations director, but don't equate government access and public relations. Those are two entirely different things.
Can you name me one program that reflects the best interests of Enid that has not been originated by my staff?
Eric,
name
the goal
me one.
of Pegasus is not program generation, it's public access. It's
But there's nobody
access.
accessing it, so.
Then vote your conscience.
The second point, I mean, the other point I'd like to make before I'll also take my turn and shut up is that, David, every one of those minutes you mentioned was done in a budget session, in the annual budget review, and Pegasus has been constantly cut and cut and cut.
Because they don't do their job. They don't do their job, and they don't do their job.
We cut enormous amounts out of Pegasus, and we're asking them to do more. HD upgrade wasn't exactly an overnight thing, and as Mr. Maxwell so well stated, it's getting cheaper. So that money, that $400,000 that did largely come from us, that they have been saving up, $400,000 in HD equipment is going to go a lot farther today than it would have 3 years ago. We have a proposal on the table to take some time with these lovely people with lots of knowledge who have stepped up well past time, but have finally stepped up and want to devote their time into rethinking this. I think we should give them the opportunity to do so, and I think we should vote down your motion and vote a second resolution allowing Pegasus 90 days with an advisory board to reshape them. And if they haven't done it by then forget it. Let's cut it. But I don't think we should lose what is there without giving just 90 days to re-explore it.
Define what is there. I mean, what do you say? What are we losing?
We're losing the organization that's there. We're losing the people that are there.
No, we're not.
No, I'm not talking about the staff, excuse me. I'm talking about the board of directors. I'm talking about
We're not
the
dissolving
institutional knowledge. Well, but a Pegasus board of directors would still technically exist, but have no assets and
They have
no purpose.
$400,000 in their bank account.
Well, actually, most of that would come back to us at that point. Only the money that they raised from individual donors would remain in their bank account.
Are you saying to let the board of directors do their job for 90 more days?
That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying, Mr. Mayor.
I have one comment to make in regard to some of the other comments that have been made, and this is kind of, this to me should be a red flag to the board of Pegasus. The fact that I know that Eric has visited with Pegasus leadership. I have visited with Pegasus leadership. Don't shake your head at me, I have the email that says it, Wendy. The fact of the matter is that your board, if your board doesn't know what you've been told, the board is saying that they've never heard this before, and to me, that is a failure of the person who has been told that to communicate that to them. I'm really kind of shocked and amazed that your board doesn't know any of this information that we've all shared. This is not new to us, so I'm really shocked at why it's new to the board all of a sudden. Because you guys act like this is all new and you've just now heard this in the last 2 weeks. And I know that it's been relayed way beyond that. So I'm just kind of confused as to why that has happened, why that hasn't been communicated to the board. But that's all I have to say about that.
I have a question, if I may. One, assuming that this resolution is adopted, what is the plan for relocating Pegasus? Obviously, it's felt that it shouldn't be in the nonprofit center. So, do we have another location in mind?
That was one opinion to not relocate it there. It's not unanimous.
Well, actually, I mean, I do have a plan, yes. There's not any part of this I haven't tried to think through. And the idea that, I mean, we're leasing space at the nonprofit right now. It's not ideal space. In fact, it's probably terrible space, but it's allowing them to function and provide the same television programming and access to our religious groups and so forth that it always has. And so my thought process is very simple. We've got fairly cheap rent over there now. We just continue that for 3 or 4 more months, like we are been doing. And we do exactly, we're going to take 90 days and look at this. This is not my proposal doesn't mean that this is done. We're finished with it. We're going to tap those same people. There's several people that I've gotten to know on the Pegasus board who are experts in the media arena. And I think they should be a part of this advisory board, media advisory group, whatever you want to call it, that this commission appoints to decide which direction we should go. So this isn't an either or on are we going to study this? Are we going to look at a new direction? Are we going to go forward? I fully intend for us to go forward and do what this commission thinks the public wants. The difference when it boils right down to it is what we're voting on is who's going to do that. Whether we're going to let the Pegasus board continue to do status quo, even with a new warning. I say they've been warned multiple times. I think this is continued failure. And I'm not faulting the individual members of the current board, and I told them that today at the meeting. This is a leadership problem. This is a group problem. This is a direction problem. And I'm not willing to let them continue to do the same thing going forward. I want a new direction. Let's change this. I beg you all, let's make a new beginning here. And let's go forward. It's going to be better for the city on the other side. Nobody's going to see any difference on the short term. And on the long term, it can be nothing but better.
But David, if we let them do it, then we are not breaching a contract, and we're not opening the city up for litigation. If there are 2 ways to do this review, then let's do it the way that's keeping the promise we made.
Well, I'm not going to debate law with you, but I just gave you 5 reasons they're in breach of that contract. We didn't breach it, they did, Ben. And if the sewer plant, if we promised $500,000 to a contractor that's building the sewer plant, but there's sewage running out the back of it, are we going to continue to fund them because we feel bad for them? No. I mean, we're not, Ben, really. We're going to modify that contract. We're going to make a change midstream in the middle of the budget process, even after we signed a contract with them. We're not going to continue to let sewage run out on the street. Well, in this case, it's okay to make a change.
Bit extreme, but I get your message.
I toned it way down.
I still don't think we have grounds for cause. I still don't think we demonstrated cause. And I still think that we would be breaching the contract, but...
Well, I think that's what lawyers make their money doing. And our city council has advised us that she thinks we're in pretty good grounds.
Actually, she said there was potential liability, but the damages would be
you could sue
high.
me because you don't agree with me. You can sue for hot coffee poured in your lap these days. But so let them sue. I don't think there's grounds. And what's going to happen on the other side of that? It's going to take 2 years to get through the court system.
I'm not saying
and
it's
we will
gonna
have
happen.
unfunded Pegasus, and we will have already provided a beautiful service for this community by the time that happens. So let them sue. They're not going to do that. These board members don't want to go to court against the city. So that's just not going to happen.
So here, just for clarification, under your resolution, the programming that is currently on there, the church, everything as it is, if somebody was not listening to this, would they notice tomorrow or a month from now, or 2 months from now, if there's a difference. I think there's a lot of misinformation that we're going to pull church services off. It's going to become a propaganda machine. That's a load. But is anybody going to even notice? I mean,
It is my specific goal, Mike, that the city will not, when this fades away and it's not in the paper next week, when this fades away, people who turn on their television and look at Pegasus are going to see the same things that they've been seeing until this body right here says, that's not what we want to do anymore.
All right. And the second thing is the volunteer committee of experts. Mr. Maxwell said that they would be appointed by that board. You know, if this resolution passes, would probably be appointed by this board. But and who are they answering to? And how are they? What does that makeup look like? And are they going to work whether this passes or not? I mean, are they going to move to this? Because I know that it's been expressed that maybe they would want this Pegasus to stay intact and work with Pegasus versus working with this board. So which is better?
Well, I don't want to get into a he said, she said on that, but the members of the public that I've talked to that are willing to help have not stated to me that this is conditional upon Pegasus staying in its shape. In fact, I talked to most of them even before we started having the conversations with the board itself. So I'm very confident that those people are interested in improving the community, not taking sides on whether it's Pegasus or not. And I'm very confident that we'll find that. I don't know if it's appropriate to use the example of the park boards and the advisory boards that we already have, but I kind of see it on that level. They can get together and they can deliberate. We can have, I suggested 7 members. I'm open to consideration of changes there. One, Steve Keim to go because he'll be directly involved, and one of us, not me, one of you all, go to that, and 5 public members. It can be a couple of Pegasus board members, and it can be some new people. And come back to this commission in the future with a recommendation for what to do. And we can take it or leave it, just like we do the park board and just like we do the Arts Council. And I mean, the Visual Arts Council is going to make recommendations to us and then we'll go forward. So I think it's a very workable way to get the public involved in telling us what they want, and then we can listen and do what is appropriate.
The last point of this is you say 3 or 4 months. Do we have a specific, like a 90-day deadline or something like that? I think would be a little easier to stomach, I think.
Well, my thought process was, and our budget negotiations, I've only done this once now. Y'all have had the chance to do it twice. I've only done it once, but it seems that occurs about in May and June, and we make the decisions for funding. So in my mind, I would very much like to see that recommendations back before we decide what we're going to fund and how much. We could decide to throw $500,000 at this project.
90 days.
Depending on what they say. I don't know. So 90 days would be fine.
Today is April the 22nd.
So we give them 90 to 120 days, and we'll still be within our ability to discuss it at the, I don't want to drag this out a year by any means. I mean, seriously, this budget cycle.
I think we need to let them do their job.
I'd like to have it resolved before the budget meetings.
April the 22nd, it's long before we get into the budget.
I'm
When do we
completely
get
open
into
to
the
that.
budget, Gerald?
I want this to move forward. I'm completely.
Timeframes, we've been talking about it, May, June timeframe. We'll be working on it.
It's 8 days,
now.
it's 8 days after April the 22nd, when they say they will have their work done. Any other comments? Is what's on 8.4 verbatim, what your motion is, David? We've talked about a lot of things.
We have, and I want to be sure we incorporate everyone's wishes. I think as it sits, really, I've left the Public Advisory Board open. City manager's in 30 days going to tell us what the best lease options would be. If that space currently in Pegasus is not the best and the event center would go, we need that recommendation. We have a deadline on that. I think we've taken care of Wendy because if she doesn't have a job, which I envision after this is approved, I think Steve Keim can run this. The budget money will come back to us. As I told the board today, there's some outstanding bills that Pegasus has involved with the relocation. We take care of that. We're not just throwing them to the wolves. We'll take care of the bills. We approved $11,000 of relocation expenses tonight already, so we're already down to $229.
that we still owe.
$25,000 that we're on the hook for, Commissioner.
So we've got some money out there that we need to take care of. So I think we can make it very clean. February 1st comes up really quick, but, you know, if we're going to do this, let's just do it and go on with it. I guarantee the public's not going to see a difference, and we're going to be better off on the other side of this. Any other questions for me? I've tried to say it every way I can say it.
Well, I think the biggest thing that's got turned around is we're not killing Pegasus. It's going on. All the calls I get is, it's not here no more. That's as far as from the truth as can be. We're going to have it. We just want to make it better. I think if just give us time, we can make it a lot better.
Well, a point that was made earlier was that, you know, you hear that the public likes it and they don't want us to do anything and all that, and I understand all of that with however, we're the ones that have the contract with them. And we're the ones that are paying that. I mean, you know, we're paying that money out, and they have a duty to fulfill that. And so I understand that people like it, and it's a feel-good thing and all that, but it has to make sense at some point, and it hasn't made sense for a very long time.
And they can still improve. If we vote no on this vote, then there's still an opportunity.
But the thing is they've been saying for 10 years that they're going to
If we vote no on this
improve,
vote,
but they
Tammy,
don't.
there is still an opportunity.
There's been an opportunity for 10 years.
And there's another.
And I'm not giving them another.
And I know where, but I'm saying there's
years is
still
plenty
an
of
opportunity to, instead of the city doing that, city taking that and looking at all this, that the Pegasus still has one last chance, 90 days to do it themselves.
Well, what I hear, and I hope I understand this, is that we're being promised that we're going to get a lot better product for a lot lower cost. Is that what we're being told?
That is my goal. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if we would even argue the money if the product was better.
Well, you know, there again, I've heard a lot of talk about the money, but I've never heard much talk about the product, other than say they don't like, they probably, you know, no specifics. So
Mr. Maxwell actually,
I'll go with you on that.
Mr. Maxwell actually admitted that they're not doing a good enough job.
I'll repeat.
Well, I mean, you know, things can always be better. We could do a better job. I'm not going to say that we're the best city commissioners ever been.
You're awesome.
I will repeat what I said earlier. What does Bartlesville, Stillwater, and Norman know that we do not know?
They've made this change
And I think
already.
90 days, I could call those 3 cities, but I'm not going to do it. That's not my job. That's the Board of Directors of Pegasus' job. Any other questions, comments? Have you got the motion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 4-3. Item 8.5, consider a resolution supporting House Bill 1875 regarding sales and use tax retention fees charged to cities, towns, and counties by the Oklahoma Tax Commission. Joan is not here. I will explain to you what I understand. The retention fee is what the Oklahoma Tax Commission charges us or withholds from us for handling the sales tax, the different use taxes that are paid to the Oklahoma Tax Commission. We pay 1%. The bill before the state legislature, then it was too late last year to be brought up this year, and they're hoping to have that in the session earlier this year. The amount of what it will save the city of Enid having to pay the Oklahoma Tax Commission is $165,000 a year. And that's going up every time you see that sales tax increase at 165. 165 is the floor. But
I'll second the motion.
one other comment.
We're with you, Mayor.
It's been a long day, and it's going to be a lot longer.
I hope not a lot longer.
For me. I can't speak for anyone else. The Oklahoma Municipal League is wanting us to approve the resolution to consolidate with the other municipalities in the state of Oklahoma. Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Mike.
I think it's a great deal.
Second by Ron. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. And we need to forward that down to the one now.
Move to approve consent items?
Second?
Motion by Ben, a second by Ron. Further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Just, on,
Motion carries 7-0.
just one quick, on the garbage truck, was that a front loader, or, I mean, for the commercial dumpsters, or is that a side loader? Front end, there it is, okay.
It's a front loader.
Okay, for the commercial dumpsters, okay.
We will now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item number 11, all the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority are in attendance. Item 12, Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is in sessions. Item 12.1, award the purchase of one front-end loading 44-yard compaction body trash truck for the Public Works Department.
Move to approve?
Moved by Ben, second by Mike. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 12.2, approval of claims in the amount of $826,102.19.
Make a motion approved.
Motion by Rodney,
Second.
second by Mike. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We'll now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 14, the trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting are all in attendance, all 7 of us. Item 15, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $380,447.41.
Make a motion approved.
Motion by Rodney,
Second?
second by Ben. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We'll now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Any other sign-ups for the public discussion, Eric?
No, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Motion by Rodney.
Second.
Yes. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.